Hello, Sawubona Mbugeli. Welcome to another exciting and informative edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Uhlelo phela olumcebisa kabanzi ngamalungelo enu njengabathengi sinilethela lona bukhoma la ku-SABC 1 Mzansi Fo Sho. I'm Alisha Jali. Nginamukele kuzo zonke izindawo. Njengenjalo ke Mbugeli ukubamba iqhaza kuhlelo lethu namhlanje ungashayela phula ucingo ku 011-714-6918 or 011-714-6919. You can also email us your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za or visit our Facebook page or tweet me at Alisha Jali #Yilungelo Lakho. Sanibona. It's a story of David and Goliath between consumers and South Africa's leading financial institutions. For years, banks in particular have been criticized for repossessing defaulting consumers' homes and auctioning them for a fraction of their market value. Now, consumers are fighting back. They've instituted a class action against the country's major banks. A Katlehong family is one of those fighting to save their home from being repossessed. Nalu utabala.
Umntombizodwa Mashabane uzimisele ngokulwela ngakho konke anakho indlu yakhe. Wathenga le ndlu ngonyaka ka1933 exhaswa elinye lamabhenki amakhulu akuleli. Waqeda ukuyikhokhela ngonyaka ka2002 uma bethola izimali zabo emsebenzini. Kwathi ke sebelindele ukuthola i-title deed yendlu bathola ababengakulindele.
Kweza ke manje abantu abaseloku besihlukumeza ngako kona lokho ukuthi bathi bathunywe ibank bazoyithenga indlu. Siyibuza ukuthi niyithenga kanjani? Nibona abantu bekhona marketing ekhona.
Kanti akubona kuphela abantu ababeloku befika bethi bezobona indlu abebabakhathaza. uSheriff naye wabavakashela.
Kusuka sabona uSheriff uyafika. Mayifika uSheriff uyasihlukumeza ngani ngempahla uyathatha ziyaphuka impahla. Phuka zonke izinto siqalela phansi futhi nama handles siyathenga futhi baskipha siyangena ke ngoba bokuskipha kwabo basibeka la ngaphandle. Siphinde futhi singene size ngaphakathi endlini.
Nangoba bakwaMashaba bethi sebaqeda ukukhokhela indlu, ummeli uHester Camp uthi kukhona okushaya amanzi la.
In the case of the Mashabas, what has to have happened was that the only way that the bank can repossess that property is if the Mashabas were in arrears with their bond installments to the bank.
Kanti lo mndeni uthi unabo bonke ubufakazi bokuthi lendlu eyabo futhi basebaqeda nokuyikhokhela. Kanti le ndaba yabo yaze yaphuma ngisho nasemaphepheni. Ibhange lithi ihome loan yakwaMashaba kudala yavalwa.
Sihambe siye ebank siyabuzisa kanti kuza kanjani ngoba le ndlu lena sazi ukuthi thina eyethu and sesithole manje incwadi eshoyo ukuthi sesiqedile ngoba sinawo amaphepha okuchaza ukuthi siqedile ukubhadala indlu. Nabo mabeyithatha bafunda ngoba umuntu kade si-attenda kahle kule ndlu bokuyimanager seyahamba kuThabo Marcus. Nayathi into esesiyibhekile manje silindele ukuthi nithole i-title deed yenu.
That is indeed very puzzling. If they can prove that they have paid off the house and they paid it off in the time period as specified by the bank and on the terms as specified by the bank, then there is no reason for the bank to sell their property in execution. Then there must be some error somewhere on the bank's side where the wrong property was sold, maybe, where there's some confusion on the bank's side.
Mrs. Mashaba uthi le ndaba isimgulisa kakhulu.
Kodwa khona manje ugula esesikhona. High blood iziphamandla. Siyagula isiphethe kabuhlungu ngoba akusinto ilanga li1 90 ebuhlungu. Kufika lo sesakufika lo sesiyinto nje iBioscope.
Njengoba udidekile umndeni wakwaMashaba ngokudliwa kwendlu yabo, ibhange lithi uMrs Mashaba ukoleta u32,000 we-personal loan, kanti futhi le loan isine-judgment. Kodwa lokhu bathi abakwazi neze. Abathengi abaningi abambiselani ngokudliwa kwezindlu zabo amabhange, kanti sebeyazilela nge-class action. UKing Sibiya, oyi-president of the Housing Class Action, uthi basuwa amabhange u-60 billion wamarandi.
We found out our properties are sold as little as 10 rands, as little as 50 rands, as little as 100 rands. Now we are saying why these properties are not sold on auction, on value price. If then it's 300,000, let me sold with 300,000.
The National Credit Regulator naye iziphonse itshe esivivaneni. Nabo bazolana kakhulu ngabathengi. Kanti basazama ukusungula imithetho amabhange okuzomela beyilandele ngaphambi kokuthi bedle izindlu zabathengi. I-NCR ithi akulunganga ukuthi amabhange edle izindlu zabantu bese bezidayisa uzuka nje. I-Housing Class Action ithi amalungelo abantu abakhishwa ezindlini ayaqhashazwa. Le nhlangano ithi abanye abantu bakhishwa ezindlini ngaphandle kokuveza ngisho incwadi yasenkantolo. Okwamanje le nhlangano ilinde usuku lokuya enkantolo namabhange, kanti banethemba lokuthi bazophumelela. Nompumelelo mthethwa, Yilungelo Lakho, eGoli.
Sibonge kakhulu ngalo mbiko phela siwudidiyelo ngunompumelelo mthethwa. And now to take our discussion further on concerns over the auctioning of defaulting consumers' homes, which are auctioned for far less than the market price. Let's extend a very warm welcome to our studio guests. We are pleased to be joined by Mr. Joseph Silolo, yena oyi senior legal advisor kwi National Credit Regulator. Siphinde sibe nayo Mr. King Sibiya nimbonile lapha kwi-insert. He is the president of the Housing Class Action. Yebo yena ke ubaba uSibiya umele labo abazoshushisa lolu daba lezikhalazo phela zokudayiselwa izindlu enkantolo yamacala. Samukele ke no Mr. Clive Pillay, yena ke ungumxazululi wezinkinga nama-banks phecelezi i-Banking Ombudsman of South Africa. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Yilungelo Lakho. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
But King, let's start with you baba. Siyakubona umningi kakhulu kule insert. Awuthi nje ukusithi qabaqaba yenzani i-Housing Class Action?
Okokuqala nje angithi ke igama lami njengoba ngisho ngoKing Sibiya, I'm from Yilungelo Lakho Human Rights Foundation. This foundation kakhulu is look ibheke eku protecting amalungelo abantu. Ngoba sibona ukuthi njengale nhlangano amalungelo abantu axhaphazwa left and right. 21 years after democracy, because we need to weigh or gauge ukuthi from the previous regime to a new regime, there's no difference because abantu basaluza indlu zabo like left and right. Today what is happening, what we are seeing, sibona into ukuthi is profit versus poor. You know, and ne-justice yethu ilento sibiza ukuthi ngempela sinenkinga enkulu ngoba i-justice yethu ayiprotect abantu okuthi ngempela ufuna ba-protect ama-consumer. Ngesizulu kuye kuthiwa kukampunzi edla emini. Kusho ukuthi abantu bakithi baxhatshazwa. I think isizulu leso kusho ukuthi ke impunzi yezifihli izebusuku kuphela, but manje impunzi masijwayele seyiza nasemini.
Okay, but King, all right, siyabonga kakhulu. Let's now talk about the insert, gentlemen, because I really want to get into the crux of this. How does into enjena yenzeke, but Joseph usibonile istory sefamily yakaMashaba? Wena ucabanga ukuthi what really happened there?
Le ndaba yakwaMashaba, seems to be an error somewhere, either the way the bank is keeping its accounts, because if it is paid off indlu, there shouldn't be any reason why it should be auctioned. So it's puzzling. One can't really say what happened, because if it's paid off, then there's not debt. There's no reason why a bank would foreclose, because it's no longer owed imali. So it's a bit puzzling there.
All right, and you know what, we did invite banks ukuthi bazosivikela but ngebhadi kabazanga. Clive, you saw the insert. What do you make of what you saw? Do really things like that happen in the housing industry and banking industry?
Alicia, maybe I should explain first, for the benefit of your viewers, what the Banking Ombudsman does.
Please go ahead, Clive.
Now, the Banking Ombudsman adjudicates disputes between banks and their customers. And we do it in an independent, impartial, confidential manner, and our service is free. But I think we are starting at the wrong place. Your insert is a problem, but there are lots of rights of recourse earlier than that. And if you give me an opportunity later, I'll explain to you what a consumer can do.
No, we're definitely going to get there. We just want to hear your views on the insert, Clive. You saw that's what happened. These people are putting the blame solely on the bank. Could things like that happen in the banking association? And where did it go wrong? Whose fault was it? That's what we want to establish. And then we'll go look into the solutions just now.
Well, it's difficult to comment on whose fault it is because we don't have enough information. We only have the version of the consumer who says, I've paid my installments every month, I'm up to date, but notwithstanding the bank took my house. We don't have the bank's version. So it's very hard for me to make an assessment. But as Joseph says, it would appear that if the consumer is up to date with her payments, then something appears to have gone wrong.
Look, King is sitting right here and is busy with the story. And this is a sub judice matter, Babu King. You can't really talk about the actual details of the story. But bathi umndeni wakamashaba yini kahle kahle le abangayenzanga? Ngizwa kukhulunywa nge-30,000 land loan abangazange bayikhokhe baba. Usichazele kabanzi.
Angiqale kancane mama ukuthi before iwari yami ukuthi indlu mayizo yakho auction. Before indlu yakho auction ibank kufanele ikubhalele ikunikeze lento esibiza 1 section 29 which is I think ubaba Lokuzana must explain. Kunomthetho esibiza 1 section 29 in terms of National Credit Act 34 of 2005. Lo mthetho uthini? Uthi mangabe mina angisakhona ukubhadala ibank noma nginama areas, ibank kufanele ngibhalele incwadi. Ithi kimi Sibiya sikunikeza 10 days unama areas angaka. Uzo arrange ne bank or ubhadala ama areas ethu. Then if ubhadala ama areas ethu, you leave us a bank with no option but to proceed to be a court.
Bakwenzile lokho kubantu
bakule family ayenzwanga mama.
Okay, so kuze kanjani ukuthi ibank livanele lifike lithathe indlu?
Mama angithi lento esisho le case ka mama Lokuzana akusiyo yodwa maningi lama problems. Nginama case amaningi officeini anjengalaba ama letters, kunama letter clear letters. Iletho koqala izosho ukuthi your house has been paid off. Number 2, ilandele ithi futhi there must be a cancellation of a bond because already we have paid up the bond. Number 3, ithi now wait for your title deed. Now when amawusamele ukuthi title deed yakho iyeza, so bona abantu bathi ngithenga indlu yakho. Mem is wrong to say uzumuntu sekathi ngithenga indlu yakho without a process yokuya court because you need to be able to defend yourself in court ma. Yabo yilento sine problem na. Mawubheka manje presently the present High Court is South Gauteng High Court. 80% ye role High Court is section 4 subsection 2 in terms of Act number 19 of 1998. Uthini lo mthetho section ilokuzana section 4 subsection 2. Isho ukuthi akekho umuntu ongakhishwa ngaphandle komthetho. Kufanele kulandele lo mthetho. Eneke lo mthetho uzusho futhi ukuthi you know kunalento sibiza when ubheke kunento sibiza notice of emotion because any eviction before you must be sending notice of emotion. I notice of emotion inqikithi document engaka eshoyo ukuthi mina ngokumangalelayo so breach iagreement yokuthi ubhadala kuma areas angaka.
You know the bad thing here is the fact that we don't have the bank side of the story like Clive alluded to it earlier, so we only have the family's versions because I'm sure Joseph where you find cases where consumer has been negligent uthola ukuthi ama summons bawadelivele and umuntu awa-ignore. But let's talk about in detail. Take us through the proper legal process before repossession. Who can best do that?
Yeah,
Clive, please go ahead.
I think it's important for your viewers to understand that if you fall into arrear, you don't automatically lose your house. You don't automatically lose your house.
What happens before you
There are
lose
two things
your
that
house?
can happen. If you fall into arrears, you should go to your bank immediately. Say to the bank, I have a problem. Now, all the banks are on record as saying they are willing to assist debt-stressed consumers. So you go to your bank. Your bank will help you in one or more of the following ways. Your bank will extend the term of your loan. Your bank could suspend interest payments. Your bank could agree to accept a reduced installment, and your bank might even agree to suspend payments completely for 3 or 6 months. So that's the first thing that can happen. So you needn't automatically lose your house. So you go to the bank. The second thing, if the bank is not prepared to help you, you still need not lose your house. The bank has to, as King says, send you a letter in terms of Section 129
What is
of the
in the
Criminal
letter?
Procedure Act. And that letter, which is a registered letter, must be sent to your home address or to your nearest postbox address. That letter must do a few things. The letter must say, you are in arrear. The letter must say, because you are in arrear, you have the right to go to an alternate dispute resolution person or body. You have the right to go to a consumer court. You have the right to go to an ombud. And you have the right, very importantly, to go to a debt counselor who can restructure your debt. So all of those things can happen.
Before your house.
Long before your house is on the market.
Should happen or are happening?
Are
Clive?
happening, does happen. The constitutional court cases that deal with it. So it all does happen long before your house is on the point of being sold.
Clive, leave it there. When we come back, you're going to tell us about what's the process before your house actually now gets repossessed. Yilungelo Lakho, ETC ibambe lapho. Sithi sishalele ngaseyitolo. Please join us shortly after this break. Before we continue with our discussion, let me remind you that you can also take part in this show by calling us on the following numbers: 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. You can also email us your thoughts. Our email address is consume@sabc.co.za. We are very modern, so we are on Facebook and Twitter, so do send us those messages. But Joseph, usesitshalile ubhuti Clive ukuthi kwenzakalani yizini mhlawumbe izinto ongazama before kufika kule stage ukuthi indlu ithathwe. Wena usichazele ukuthi indoda ukuze ifike lapha izokuphuca ikhiye zakwakho kumele ngabe sekwenzakaleni.
As our advocate has already said, there's this Section 129, which essentially ichazela about your rights, about what you can do to avoid a situation where a legal process starts. So you now receive this Section 129. It tells you what you can do, as he has said, referring you to the credit ombud, to the debt counselor, alternative dispute resolution.
How much time do you have to try and actually find recourse before your house gets repossessed, with Joseph?
At that stage, you must act within 10 days.
Okay.
Right? So, however, the law then says they cannot take action unless 20 days have passed from the time that they have sent you that notice.
Response time, yes.
Yes. Now, what happens is when they go to court, when they're starting the action, they need to prove that by back to mail this Section 129 notice.
Okay.
What the Constitutional Court has told us is required as proof is at least a registered slip that shows that, you know what you call track and trace, that shows that this letter was dispatched on this day, and on that day it reached your post office, where they usually issue your notification to say you have a letter. Now the problem happens there where consumers ignore their letters. So, but when the letter is then sent out, you have to react to it, and you can go to a debt counselor. If that doesn't happen, and
Joseph nje kude kakhulu, this letter le efikayo kumele ibe sezandleni zami physically or bayishiye post office njengoba dusho. How do I then prove ukuthi ngiyitholile leyo summons as an individual?
The burden of proof is actually on the bank.
Okay.
To prove that they have at least cost it to reach your post office. So that's the easiest way, because we call it a track and trace. That can show that this letter has landed at your post office.
Okay.
And then it goes on to show the first notification whether it was sent out to you to say you have a letter here, come collect. If you don't collect, they have discharged their obligation. The banks are not required to actually place it in your hand. Because it has been proven that some consumers make sure that the letter doesn't come to them
Kanjani
to frustrate the process.
It's a post office most le ncwadi
But if first
bazo-interfere kanjani ukuthi deliver.
The first notification comes to your house, you simply don't go and collect. So,
Okay.
Yes. So once you receive that first notification, you have to now go and collect. So then the banks, that's how they'll prove that they've given you that notice.
Okay.
So without proof that the letter was dispatched to you, a court will not grant lama orders abawufunayo.
Okay,
Yes.
ima sizokhuluma nge-corruption because siyazi ukuthi kuthiwa kunama-officials akholuda nabantu ukuthi bakhiphe lama-written summons. Ake sithathe uTumi from Soweto on the line. Tumi, a very good afternoon. Siyakwamukela ohleleni. Umbuzo noma umbono?
Umbuzo, the house was repossessed, it's about 10 years ago. And masiloku ku-investigate ukutholakala ukuthi i-bank iye yavala, so the information is not there. So it's a masifonela i-ombudsman bathi no, all the houses from Unibank zizaya ku-ABSA. We went to ABSA and then ABSA yathi no, you didn't have that information. And that person wafika la endlini athi uthenge indlu uthe uphuma from ABSA. Then when you called head office ABSA basitshela ukuthi no, that person akasasebenzi lapho. So that means information from Unibank to ABSA ifikile. But now the whoever we were decided to even things anyway. We find that if follow up the agent, it was illegal. So it's the following year wathengisa izindlu.
Sisitumi, ithi ngikubuza sithanda sami le ndlu lena ibi onwa ubani mhlambe uwena owna le ndlu or indlu yefamily yenu?
Indlu eonwa umama.
Okay, indlu kama wakho una proof of everything, title deed now yonke into.
Azange ayithole i-title deed because ithe makaphelelwa umsebenzi waripota ebhenki ukuthi uphelelwe umsebenzi. Okay, fine. Ithe makathola imali which was not enough wabhadala about 20,000. Makathi uyobhadala ibalance i-Unibank ivaliwe.
Okay, so the bank had closed when she wanted to settle the amount for the house.
Settle the amount, yes.
Okay, so then the new owner came through and wanted you guys to be evicted?
Yes.
Okay, nasenenza njani ke sis?
And then wasithatha wasisa ecourt. So during the process of investigate the agent in the VP and all that, so in the yakona yaphelele emoyeni because of now the new owner uthena angeke asa procedure with information ehlangahlangene kangaka. So you want to know what can you do now because of issue efana nale. We experience it like la election. Ukuthi izindlu ama-illegal agents and all that. And people can afford to follow those private lawyers to take the matters to high court.
Yebo sisitumi le ndlu le benifuna ukuyidayisa nina or nivane nezwa sekuthiwa isithengiwe ile owner entsha.
Thina besifuna ukusettler and then somebody came and said indlu seyithengisiwe.
Oh, I see. All right. Menkhuluma ne-banking ombud Sisitumi because he's here. What did he say?
Ombudsman bathe the whole information to ihambisiwe iseku ABSA. Then ABSA knows what
the information is. Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Then when we went to ABSA it's no information leyo ayikho, but information ekhona because umama she had an account with ABSA before. That is the only information evelayo.
Ekhona. Okay, ke sis. All right, Sisitumi. Nisahlala endlini okwamanje. Are you still living there?
Yes, we are still in the house.
Okay, so nilwa ne-new owner manje. All right. Okay,
Yeah,
so okay, ke Sisitumi. Ngicela ubambe lapho cingweni if ungakhona. Clive, do you want to quickly say something about this because apparently they have, I don't know if you got the gist of the story.
What is the gist of the story?
Well, she's basically her mother bought a house and then she paid a certain amount towards the house, and then when she got retrenched, she didn't have money, but she got money at a later stage and went to try and settle the installment now. And when she got to the bank, they said that the bank is no longer functional, it's closed. And then the new owner came, and then the new owner is demanding that they should move out of the house. And then he's taken them to court. And then they found out during the court process that even the agent that was selling the house was illegal.
All right. Sisitumi, mamela sisi. I can't respond to that unless I have the bank's version as well. Or I open a file and check my file. So the best I can do is to suggest that she contacts me, and then we will look at her matter again.
Okay, Sisitumi uzwile sithando sami?
Yeah, can we have that?
Okay, all right. Sinayo inamba yakhe uBut Clive lana sizokunikeza yona nje before sivala uhlelo, so ngicela ulalele. Nangu futhi uBut King ufuna ukuaddressa ngoba engathi udila ngabantu abanenkinga ezifana nezakho. Ngicela umlalele naye.
Yeah. Inkinga kasisi uTumi, inkinga sesinayo manje ngoba you see makune court order against you mama, kufanele ukuthi court order we defend because it still stand. Uzohlepheka pitlat.com. Uyabona nje ngobahlala manje. Uhleli phezulu kwelahle ngoba I trespassing yeza now. And okwesibili okunzima manje ukuthi there's a third party involved. Kusokunomuntu othenga indlu. Angithi uzwile nawe si ayisese sekuyibank usystem ibank and then sokunomuntu omusha othengile. Lo muntu omusha othengile manje icourt izoprotecta lo muntu omusha othengile because izombiza ukuthi he's an innocent buyer ngoba uthengele yandlu ku auction. Because auction has viewed as a public auction. So anyone has a right to go to court, to auction and buy go auction. Yeah, but so therefore now, complication here, that's why now sends it class action. Because you see now, question will go to manje. Usistumi agazana new owner. Lento sibiza ukuthi manje lama problem sewa create black on black violence. Yabona na inkinga ekhona. You'll find kwamanye areas mawuthi angena uthi sengithenge lendlu because sithu manje silole indlu eyi1. Mawuthi angena kwami mawuthi angena kwami sengibeke amanzi abilayo. Uyabona with brown sugar ngiyakuthela ngayo. You understand? Now people that manje abadla imali abekho bona ba restile thina we fight amongst ourselves.
But why is that Joseph ukuthi umthetho uprotect the new owner over the previous owner? King, I just want to get this from a legal aspect. Look, very quickly, but Joseph.
The law is specific. The National Credit Act says its purpose is to balance the rights and obligations of both the consumer and the credit provider. That should be the starting point. Now, when
doesn't sound balanced here.
When we now go to try and get the orders, various laws come into being. First, there's a law of contract, which the consumer and the bank have entered into to say, you borrow me money and I'll pay per month. Now, in this scenario, Gasistumi, what I hear there is that there were payments, then there was retrenchment, and then there was a lump sum payment, however, which was not extinguishing the debt. So, it's called it. It sounds like some time had elapsed and they had money. And then when they now had money, when they came into funds, they tried to go settle what was owing. That gap, that's when the bank saw, we are not being paid, let's take legal action. They took legal action and then they got a judgment.
You see, there's always an answer to something. I suppose it might not be the best answer.
It might not be.
Yes,
yes, indeed it is unfortunate that they ended in that situation.
And we need to own up to that, Babugeli. I really want you to own up. And when you call us, usichazele ngempela, so that we can know what really happened, so that we'll give you the right solutions. Don't tell us ukuthi you didn't know or you didn't get a letter uyitholile Mbugeli. Ngeke sikwazi ukukusiza. For now, let's hold it there and take another quick commercial ad break. Please, hlala nathi ungayindawo. Welcome back Mbukeli. Namhlanje ke sikhuluma ngendlela engancomeki neze phela yokuthatha kwezindlu zabantu ngamabhange bese sidayiswa ngotiki. I am joined by 3 gentlemen in studio willing to listen to your issues. Hurry up and call us. The gentlemen are Mr. King Sibiya from e-housing class action, Mr. Clive Pillay, the banking ombudsman, and Mr. Joseph Silolo of the NCR. Lonke usizo oludingayo khona la e-studio usameleni ngeshaya ucingo 0117146918 or 7146919. Ake sibheke ukuthi nithini lapha ku Facebook. Usive Mazinini Gweva uthi ndiyawulinda ngomonde ke ndiqwalasele ukubanga wapi amanyathelo endingawathatha phela ukulwa nebhenki kuba nami ndikulomeko kwaye indenza lonto ndingaphumli kuba yonke lento ke bayenza ngesinyamulani. Mount Freya, very worried consumer there who's in a similar situation as our callers were to have stated on the show previously. So Nobile Vincent Tai says, I have a very close friend who bought a house and paid for the first year, then got retrenched, and then the service provider chased him in only 4 months, although we submitted all the necessary documents to the bank at Johannesburg. And Banqo Khangela uthi buhlungu yazi ngempela into yokuthengiswa kwendlu kungaziwe into bahlala bani kanjani nebhenki ingamazisi umuntu loyo ahlala kuloyo yindlu. But King ufuna ukuthini wena? All right, but King, before usho something ithi ngi-addresse ama-callers abambe ucingo lapha. Siqale ngoMolo KwaZulu Natal. Bhuti Molo siyakwamukela ohlelweni umbuzo noma umbono.
Dadewethu kunjani sisi?
Ngiyaphila Nsizwa, qhubeka ngombuzo noma umbono.
Ngingumolo Maseko eDumbe ezibomvu. Yazi wesisi kunenkinga lapha ngathenga indlu endaweni yaseNewcastle.
Yebo bhuti.
Inkinga engihlangabezane nayo ke dadewethu indlu yayisidayisiwe phambilini. Lo muntu engayithenga kuye akazange angichazele ukuthi indlu wayeseyidayisile. Ukuyidayisa kwakhe lo muntu ayemdayisele wayekhokhe half. Ngafika mina ngongazi wangidayisela nami ngakhokha ngaqeda mina indlu. So manje ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi iziphi inyathelo ekumele ngimthathele zona cause ilokuzana akayibuyisile ilokuzana imali yami yonke useyibuyise half. So manje ngicela ukuthi ethu ungichazela lapho nje angibonge dadewethu.
Manje bhuti Molo awusayifuni yini wena le ndlu? Awusafuni ukuyithenga?
Cha angisayifuni indlu.
Usufuna imali yakho back?
Ngifuna nje imali yami into zokugibela ngivela uBhuti Molo kaMaseko akayisebenzisi.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu Bhuti Molo, ulalele nje kanjalo kumabona kude wakho. Ithi ngithathe uSisithembi from eHillbrow. Sisithembi siyakwamukela kakhulu ohlelweni. Thank you kubamba ulayini. Umbuzo noma umbono sisi. Hello Sisithembi, siyakwamukela ohlelweni sisi. Qhubeka nombuzo noma umbono.
Yebo. Ya, umbuzo wami ukuthi mangabe ngisabhadala ibond nase ngiyabona ukuthi amandla anginawo sengifuna ukuthi ngidayise le indlu.
Yebo sisi.
Fanele ngiye ebanki ngiyokwenza ama-arrangement umuntu omusha engabe ngifuna ukumdayisela noma kwenzakala kanjani. Fanele ukuthi vele kube ibhenki elingidecide ukuthi ngenze njani. Enye into mangabe indlu izo-auctionwa kungani ibhenki ingenzi sure ukuthi sesihlulene bese sengiphumile kwasendlini ngaphambi kokuthi ithole a new buyer ngoba mangabe umuntu asathengile usukangazi ukuthi umuntu kunomuntu phakathi ngicela ngiyagoloza ngifuna ukuphuma yabona ukuthi inkinga le why bangenzi sure ukuthi vele leyo ndlela asahlali umuntu kuqala.
Alright. Okay, siyabonga kakhulu. But Joseph, I see you nodding there. Siqale ngobhuti lo uMolo KwaZulu Natal.
Yeah, we can say about Molo because uthi yena akasayifuni.
Yes, kodwa ngathi ubeseyikhokhile imali.
Yeah, it seems it was a private sale between yena and the person. Yeah, so his rights are very simple. Ukuthi athole ummeli and then asue this person for whatever amounts as badalile that he needs to recover. If bekafuna le ndlu, he could still sue for a second interdict ezothi. The seller mnikeze i-transfer, failing who, i-sheriff must then transfer it on behalf of the seller to his name.
But Joseph, let's start at this place. The owner, the seller in this particular case was not honest. I mean, he had sold the house to another individual, and then because that individual paid him half the amount, he decides now to sell it to another person.
Yeah, he was not honest. It's probably misrepresentation. However, that doesn't affect the first failed sale. Doesn't affect Bhuti Molo.
Okay,
that's not his problem. His problem is he either seeks a specific performance good at Lendlu, but he has already said that I found a specific performance. Back. He has to sue for that money. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And then
System.
System had two questions.
Yes. Eyokqala ubebuza ukuthi since if ebona ukuthi akasenamandla ukuthi akhokhele ibank, what can she do? Does she go to a person that she's going to sell the house to and say to them, look, this is what I'm going to give you the house for privately, or she needs to go to the bank and let it be the bank that decides what happens with the house?
Okay. Yes, a private sale is what she can do. If she sees what I can no longer afford this house, it's best for me to sell it. She can put it on the market and get a buyer.
Okay.
The problem is finding a buyer, and the process where the house is registered now can take long, where you, on the other hand, you are falling into arrears. So she can then go to the bank to say to them, I need to restructure my debt. Yes. Or she can find a debt counselor who will help her with the restructuring of those debts. And she can still, while this process is going on, look for a buyer so that the house is then sold. She then has money to settle the bond and probably has money to find an alternative property.
How would you advise that consumer, Clive?
Well, as Joseph says, there are one of two things you can do. You can sell the house privately, but bear in mind that there's more or less a 3-month delay. Or you can go back to the bank and say, I'd like to restructure my debt, as I said at the beginning, and bank could help you in one or more of those ways, and then you could retain the property. It's advisable always to try and retain the property. It's an appreciating asset, and you shouldn't sell your property unless you really have to.
But why? What if somebody's trying to sell me their property and they've already received summons then? What happens in that instant, and I come and I buy a house and already the bank was already started or had started with the process of actually repossessing the house?
Well, there again, it needn't go to finality. You could call the bank in, and the three parties can come to an arrangement.
Or to say, I've already found a buyer and this is what's going to happen. So that is possible.
It's possible.
Because we must bear in mind that the bank, yes, we're talking about the house, but the agreement between the consumer and the bank relates to the borrowing and lending of money.
Yes.
So the bank is interested in recovering its money, not necessarily in divesting you of the property, but in recovering its money. When there's now a buyer that says, I'm going to buy this, and there can be guarantees that can be issued, I don't see why that transaction cannot go on aside.
Can I just make one other point,
Yes,
Alicia? You see, a lot of consumers are concerned about houses being sold below
10 Rand,
oh,
40 Rand,
right,
500 Rand.
right. But on Wednesday in Parliament, the National Credit Regulator's Office, at the portfolio debate, has said that they want to introduce an amendment to the Act so that there will be a reserve
proposal.
so that there will be a reserve price when you sell a house. So depending on the value of the house, you won't be able to sell that house below a certain value. So if the house is worth 300,000 Rand, you won't, for example, be able to sell it for less than 210,000 Rand. So that's a good thing.
But King,
Yeah, you see, njengoba khuluma ngayo advocate life, I think kule application esifakile that goes to court. There are institutions, not only the bank, esifake into kuma application, but also there are various institutions. Firstly, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, because they are the one abacreate imithetho. Secondly, you abaqasha amajaji, magistrate, you name them. Because when you look, i-constitution yethu, Section 165 of the Constitution, it says the judicial authority is invested in court. Clearly.
Yes.
So the principles are clear. But the implementation, it become a problem. You know, I must say to you, the Constitution as a Republic of South Africa, it's the best constitution in the whole world.
so what brought about those concerns when I put King ukuthi nizenfunela amendments kuma regulations?
Okay. The amendment, why city, in Parliament, there are laws that is change. Amongst this one, the auction. This is one area as for change because I want fairness. Angithi for argument's sake, noma ngikoleti bank, I've occupied indlu for 17 years. Ngisalwe 3 years ukuthi ngibhadale ibond.
Bese kuyabheda.
Bese kuyabheda. Yabona na. Ngoba you see, he contracted 20 years. I must say, Alicia, I don't know what's going to happen. Kunezinye izinto engeke ngizikhone mina. Lezi zinto sithi issues are beyond my control.
Phecelezi kumele bakunikeze room to breathe basically. Ibambe kanjalo King sizoxoxa emva kwekhefu mbukeli. Let's take another quick ad break. We'll be back shortly after this. Welcome back. Mbukeli usabheka uhlelo Yilungelo Lakho la kumahamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi Fo Sho. To take part on the show, our studio numbers are 011-714-6918 or 714-6919 rather, or email us your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za. Siyatholakala kakhulu ku Facebook na ku Twitter. But King, awuqedela ipoint yakho ubuyibeka baba.
Ipoint yami ukuthi kuzokuthiwa iNCR ithi ilokuzana. We have put it claim to NCR. I think the NCR, because you know, these institutions are the institutions that need to protect our consumer next to me, including the ombudsman. So now, I'm not saying, but
I see.
Now, as I've said, with the Department of Justice, firstly, what must be ilokuzana imithetho change imithetho. Secondly, Parliament must change these laws. Yabona now ikwazi ukuclose ama gaps so that ukuthi ama interest of the consumer have been protected. You know, here we are not saying we are against ama eviction, but we are saying procedural. Are the procedure being adhered to? Because kunezinto la serious, unlawfully, unprocedural, unlawful and unconstitutional. So those are very serious matters. So again now, secondly, njengoba ukuthi Parliament is discussing this. We are saying to Parliament, we are proposing to Parliament ukuthi ayichinja ama laws, especially on ama auction. Because you see our point of departure ku serious ukuthi indlu yakini ithengiswa nge100 rand. Akekho umuntu ongashota nge100 rand. Noma sokunzima kunjani ngaya ku next door ngiyocela i100 rand. Indlu ethengiswa nge10 rand. I mean really are we in a country as serious now in terms of the law? Now clearly kusho ukuthi ama consumer not been protected. And into ebhlungu ukuthi ke kunama widows. Yabona umthetho mawungabheka section 25 the constitutional right to property. No one can deprive that right. But people have been deprived that right. Section 26 access to adequate housing. You understand?
Implementation when ababuking le engabi right. But ama imithetho yona ikhona ama regulations abekiwe government.
Section 28.
Mele sithola indlela entsha yokuwa implement.
Section 28 ma'am. Ikhuluma ngokuthi ungayivictwa la kunabantwana khona ama senior citizen none in terms of Pi Act, you know, but the situation is now 98% yalama evictions kunabantwana ngaphakathi. And kufanele ngikuthela ukuthi abantwana they are the one who suffer more than ama parents.
And that's our worry here on the show is what happens after you've repossessed that house and you leave those majority outside in the court.
And abantu mental abasekho right.
Okay babuking asibeke lapho ngifuna ukuzwa ukuthi usizimasa eSoweto uthini yena ucingweni sizimasa sekwamukela ohlelweni umbuzo noma umbono.
Enkosi sibulela kakhulu ngokunithanda ithuba.
Yebo sisi.
Ngimhlanje eSoweto sinale ngxaki yezizinto ezithiwa abantu ezindlini zakhona. Izindlu zakhona zeza kwaPansnet otata bethu babesebenza kuzo. Ngomnye weforum esizihamba njalo ngeqhawe sithetha ngalama eviction. Abantu abaningi sisi ngokubalela ba i6 iphumile ezindlini ezithiwa benganikezwanga nemeta mhlambi ezikwazi ukuthi kumele uphume endlini ngebheki so the only letter abazitholayo sheriff ekupha isayibhezi ukuthi phuma endlini xa uthi uyayilandelela sekulate ubona sekuqhamuka amaphoyisa angasindawo nayo indawo yokuhlala apha mhlawumbe abuya komakrugerstop or kuphi kuphi ehamba nabantu abazafike bakhipha impahla zakho zonke ngaphandle. Aba bantu zange banikeze i-title deed zabo, azange banikeze izimali zabo emsebenzini, baphume ngendlela ezahlukeneyo. Abanye baphume ngokugxothwa nge-reason ezi-different, abanye baphume ngokugula, kodwa mabeyilandelela besiya kwikhampani sicela imali zethu kuthi hayi imali yathathwa yafakwa endlini, kodwa still namhlanje bayakhipha ezindlini kuthiwa mabaphume. Into yakhona ine-fraud inobukruku ngoba izinto ziphuma kuma-sheriff.
Sizimasa
mawuthuye ecourt mama.
Mamzimasa mukhuluma ngale mizi lo okhuluma ngayo awusitshele wena specifically icase yakho indlu yakho lo okhuluma ngayo wayithenga kwenzakalani ukuthi kuvane kufika abantu bathi bani evictor benganikanga ngisho ama notice?
Indlu kababa sisi indlu katata.
Okay.
Thina utata sekathola.
Okay.
Title deed.
Nina iproof yokuthi indlu eyenu ma?
Masiya koma i-title deed office. Iyatho ukuthi indlu ekatata yize i-title deed boqobayo ngazange ayifumane.
Oh okay all right. Okay so maye kunabantu asebefuna ukune-victor manje?
Yebo mama bafikile bephethe izibhamu sakhutshelwa ngaphandle sasa kodwa ukuthi babezosithusa nje ngoba bakwenze oko kungenamuntu endlini bakhipha impahla bayifumane igcwele ngaphandle belokile.
Okay mamzimasa. Okay masicela nje ubuke lapho umabonakude wakho sizozama ukuthi sixazulule udaba lakho emva kwe-ad break. Look, we're sitting with the ombudsman as well as the regulator. Isikhathi sokuthi thina sabheke siyokhokha izikweletu zethu. Mbukeni siyabuya khona manje. Welcome back to our final discussion. Mbukeli seselugoqa phela uhlelo kodwa ke wena ungashesha nje usithinte ocingweni noma usithumele izinto lapha ku Facebook, ama messages ku Facebook na ku Twitter. But King, very quickly, do you want to address indaba ka Mamzimasa okhuluma ngendaba yokuthi sicabanga ukuthi Transnet kwakhona ama bond mayelana nabasebenzi kwenzakaleni?
Yeah, issue ka Transnet is big ma'am, it's countrywide. Umhlaba because kunomhlaba bo uno Transnet afaka abantu bakhe, especially ama-employees. It was catered for only for employees ka-Transnet.
Okay, so
Now,
ningakwazi ukumsiza?
Yes, but the problem funeka sincedela ngento ezithu. Kukhona abantu abatransfera to FNB as a service provider by Transnet. Yeah, it all now that which is those issues can be involved in the class action because it's against the FNB banks. And then kube nale ka Transnet. Yeah, it all now. Now lama issues wonke ngidila ngawo. I think usisi if mangaz singakhona ukuthi sibone ukuthi how best can we help it.
Sizimasa uzwile ukuthi nawe ungasifonela ufonele oBoard Clive bazozama ukuthi bayifakele ama specs indaba yakho. But Joseph nina njenge NCR yini ningayenza?
Look, it's a bit difficult when you don't have all the facts. It becomes a bit difficult to handle issues. However, we need to bear in mind, Uti, once you have a debt, so you have to pay it. And if you can't pay, you are the person who knows that I cannot pay. What was it with Manjang Sanamali, I'm falling short. You are the person to first take the first step to go either to the bank or to the debt counselor to restructure your debts. You know, but you cannot sit and wait and then
ignore summons.
It's as though there's this conspiracy from the banks to make sure that people don't receive summons and so on. But the fact of the matter is, no court will grant a judgment without a return of service.
Let's leave it there. And I want to take Clive's final words before we go. Clive, how can consumers make sure that they protect themselves against all these troubling practices that are seemingly happening in
very
the industry?
Joseph, if you find yourself debt stressed, go to the bank to restructure your debt.
Take action.
Take action. When you get the Section 129 letter, pay attention to your rights contained in that letter.
All right. Well, that's where we leave it, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here on Yilungelo Lakho today, Mbugeli. That's where we end today's show. Let me thank our studio guests for their time and invaluable knowledge on today's show. 49 babugeli phela ngeqhaza enilibambile namhlanje. Please join us again next week, Friday, for another live consumer topic of the week. You are welcome to send us your topic suggestions. Our email address is consumer@sabc.co.za. From me, Alish Ntombiaga Jadi, and the whole team, keep well until next time, nisale kahle, and happy Africa Day and happy Africa Month.